Today's guest is Matt Stegall, Assistant Vice President of Credit Resolution and Recovery at Vantage Credit Union. With nearly 20 years in the collections and operations industry, Matt is well-versed in the art of relationship building. His favorite part of the industry is that each month gives him the chance to help someone else in need. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So today's topic, we're going to be talking about maintaining brand loyalty during the recovery process. But before we get into that, can you walk us through how you found yourself in this industry?
So when I was out of college, I was looking for a job and actually got a summer intern job helping in the remarketing area of a pretty large auto finance company, and kind of worked through that. Got a chance to do bankruptcy, repossessions, collections, customer service, a little bit of everything in my time with them. As life changed, I ended up at the credit union as a collector and just kind of worked my way up from there. And I've been with the credit union for 14 years now.
Yeah, 14 years is a good amount of time. What part of the industry kind of made you want to stay put and grow?
Yeah, so my dad was actually in collections as well, so I learned a lot from him early on. The thing I like about the credit union space of collections is we get the opportunity to be more personalized with our members, get to know them, understand their story. We're looking to build a whole life financial relationship with them as opposed to maybe just one loan. So it's a whole different environment when you're trying to keep somebody as a member for the rest of their life, and also hopefully their family joins and things like that. So, and I enjoy the family and atmosphere of a credit union and being able to know most of my coworkers pretty well and things like that. And even though we're a bigger credit union, I still know pretty much everybody that works here.
That's where that relationship building comes in, right?
Exactly.
So a little peek behind the curtain, but when I was asking you to help give me something to create your bio with, you gave a really nice description, longer than what I said, about your favorite part of the industry. So can you actually expand upon your perspective on relationship building and what you sent to me in your email?
Yeah, so for me, each month is a chance to start over, build a new relationship with a member that might be having a financial struggle or other issue. So we have that opportunity to be that sounding board, maybe just listen to them when they need to have somebody hear them, give them an opportunity through like an extension or a payment plan to help them get back on track to deal with whatever's going on in their life, and hope that most of those interactions are positive ones where the member realizes that we're truly there for them and we want them to remain a member. Obviously, it benefits everybody, including the other members and the credit union and that individual member, if we can keep them as a member, get their loan or whatever it is back on track, and build that relationship for a lifetime where we hope they never need us, in my area especially, but if they do, they know they can depend on us.
Yeah, I feel like that was such a great point. You hope they never need to go to you and your team, but if they end up there, they know that they will be treated just the same as they were if they were getting a new, credit product or anything else from the credit union.
And that's exactly right. We want them to feel the same way they did, even though it's a much more difficult situation. We want them to feel the same way they did when they first got that loan or they opened that new account. We want them to have that same feeling by getting help from us, because that's why they came to us in the first place, was that credit union relationship.
So you mentioned even though Vantage is a somewhat larger credit union, you still are very familiar with everybody that you work with. From a member centricity standpoint, how do you align your strategies with those of other member-facing roles within the credit union?
Sure. So I think it's huge for everybody from front office to back office to be aligned on what we want to see for our members. So it helps if you know everybody, you know who to call for certain issues, what departments do what, you can ask them who they worked with before and they'll be able to tell you, you'll know right who that person is. So you can get that familiarity with their situation, and it becomes a much different relationship when they're not just a number to you, but they're an actual person with their whole situation. We know their background. We know what led to the current situation. And so when you have a one team focused mission where everybody's pulling in the same direction and wants the same thing for our members, it's really helpful in creating that overall relationship and making the credit union successful, because the members feel like they find a financial home. And when there's so much competition nowadays, and a lot of us offer pretty much the same things, those type of focuses and strategies are what differentiates you from your competitors. And St. Louis is, we're in the greater St. Louis area in Missouri and Illinois, and it's very saturated with other credit unions, right? So we've got to differentiate ourselves by that, those kind of things that are people oriented, not just product based.
Absolutely. And I can imagine, going to another area of the business within Vantage that you don't only get data points on the current member you're speaking to, but you might get a whole family history, which is probably a big benefit of something as close as a credit union relationship, right?
Absolutely. It's good to know, like, if, somebody's whole family is members and, or if they've had kids accounts since they were kids and now they transition to adult accounts and things like that, that helps build that total picture of your relationship with them and helps you serve them better. And then if it's somebody that's just coming in, maybe say through the dealer channel, that this is their first experience with us, so we want them to grow with us, you can use that background to build on that. And then our front end staff does a great job, cross-selling and building those relationships, because we don't want them just for that one loan. We want to build it forever and, take as many pieces of their financial life under our umbrella as possible. So absolutely, it's always great to know everything that's going on. And no knock against bigger companies, but when you get in a bigger company situation, it's hard to sometimes gather all that because, the other department might be 2,000 miles away or, whatever. You may not know the people in that other department, things like that. So it's definitely an advantage and a great perk of being a credit union employee for sure.
So being at your role at Vantage and in the industry for 14 years, how would you say that your, whether it's collections or just your relationship building strategies, has evolved? Because I know the industry as a whole has dramatically evolved in 14 years, in 5 years even probably. So how have you seen things grow?
It's definitely what I would call a much softer touch environment now in collections. And I think you'd find that to be true from all the way from credit unions, banks, finance companies, all the way through to collection agencies even now. It's just a different approach. We all know that we want to treat each other the way we want to be treated. So, you're not going to encourage that relationship to grow or get that payment or work toward that solution to keep them as a member if the conversations and interactions aren't professional and kind and you're not being an active listener and things like that. So that's one of the biggest changes I've noticed from early on, is that the approach is totally different. And then I would say the other biggest thing is definitely the technology. So when I first started out, we definitely were emailing, we were texting, we were chatting, pretty much strictly phone contact or mail contact. So that's been a huge change. And then the amount of information we have access to quickly, as far as data points that we can use to help people and the information we can find quickly at our fingertips, it's totally different than when I first started in all aspects of the industry. I mean, we used to have to wait in the mail for bankruptcy notices and stuff like that. Now that all comes to our email inbox every morning before we even get here. I mean, it's just totally different, the access to information, the speed of it, and how we use it. And you hope that you're customizing that to your members' preferences so that we have the best communication possible with them in the way they want to be communicated with to help them resolve whatever issue is they have.
Yeah, absolutely. Bringing up the fact, or you bringing up communication preference, customization. I was going to ask, you mentioned obviously communicating via text and email. I was wondering if, because it's a credit union environment, if people are still leaning more towards that humanized and person-to-person preference, or if you do see, just like in any other industry, it's leaning more digital now.
I think as credit union memberships are constantly rolling over, so you're getting new, younger members and things like that, and then the generations that were already there that were, have adopted technology, things like that, I think it's pretty high. I mean, our app is, state of the art, and we've got all those features in there, reminders, financial health, payment reminders, balance reminders, savings goals. I mean, and then we're using some, stuff to text, and we're doing our own emails, stuff like that. So we get a fair amount of response, but then there's some people that still want to talk to you. That's totally fine. And then especially when you get into later stage collections, sometimes it's necessary to have that phone conversation because they're working through so many steps. And that's what we want our reps ideally to be focused on, is that early self-service where we can, to eliminate the need to have an extra touch point there if we don't need to. But then when we start getting further and further, we want our reps to have those conversations to make sure we're truly solving the issue permanently or for a long term. And also to build that relationship with the member where, hopefully it doesn't happen, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, as they're still a member, if they have something else happen, they know they can communicate with us and try to work toward a resolution. So I think using every facet of communication is important to building those relationships. We're all busy now. So if you need to wait till 9 o'clock at night to make a payment, you don't want to be calling you to do that. You want to do it through your app or through a text link or an email or something like that, or through your online banking. So all of that is still very valid today. And I think you have to have a mix in order to meet all people.
I had a guest on the podcast mention once that, a lot of consumers or members in your case, they want to be able to pay. No one wants to go into collections,
Right.
But you have to make it easy for them to pay. You can't have it like hidden on a outdated website that's not mobile friendly or anything like that. So that's great that you mentioned your app doesn't only have these basic, I will say, expected requirements, but you also have savings goals and stuff like that. That's great that you offer that for your members.
Yeah, it's been really great. We actually just got a new online banking system last year. So the app was changed during that. We got a lot of new great features to build on the ones we already had. But I agree, you have to remove the friction to making the payment, because the more friction you have, the less likely it may not happen, or they may abandon it halfway through the process or something like that. They're like, I'll just deal with it later. Whereas if you make it simple as possible, as many options as possible, that's what we're looking for. And, like you mentioned earlier, everybody wants to pay. Nobody takes out the loan with the intention of defaulting. That's just, unfortunately, bad stuff happens to good people. Everybody's susceptible to having a health issue, a job change, a life event of some kind. That I think that's important for collections, people in the world to understand, is that your borrowers don't want to default. If you're new to collections, they're just going through something usually. So it's important to offer that frictionless payment option as much as possible, and then understand that it's coming from a place of they want to pay, but maybe they just can't right now.
Yeah, it's that empathy combined with technology, really creating the most well-rounded member-centric strategy.
Yeah. And it's tough to show empathy in a text or an email or a website sometimes, but that's where those phone interactions and things like that come in, huge there, because that's actually one of the categories we look at when we listen to calls and things like that is, was their empathy shown when appropriate? Obviously, it can't be canned or not genuine. It needs to be genuine and specific to what they're going through. A lot of your training and things like that is making sure that if you haven't been through the experience, you're not saying, I understand how you feel. You want to say, I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that. I can't imagine how that would be. Let's see what we can do to help you out. So genuine empathy is super important in any business relationship, but especially when somebody's going through something.
Matt, it has been so great chatting with you today. Is there anything that you want to add that we didn't touch on before we sign off?
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thanks so much.